Hello, students. Today's lesson is about Google Docs. Coming into Battleground Virtual Academy, you might have a lot of experience using the Google apps and using Google Docs, and you might not have as much experience. Even if this is your second, third, fourth, or even sixth year using Google Docs, there might be some formatting options and tools that you've never seen before. Also, know that Google makes changes and updates pretty often, so you might be surprised by some of the tools that you never noticed. So let's get started. When I'm getting ready to do a new Google Doc, I like to start in my Google Drive. You can also just find Docs right down here. The reason why I like to start in my Google Drive is I like to be able to see it pop up in my Google Drive right away, but really it's just personal preference. But for today, I will select Google Docs because you've seen me do it a different way, and I'm going to start a new document. Below, you can see recent documents that I have accessed or where I've used Google Docs. So it's a place where you can also find Google Docs that maybe you forgot what they were or you didn't title them. When you open up a new Google Doc, there are some things that you can probably just make go away as a beginning user. One is the document tabs. If I were writing a novel or if I had a document that was tens, hundreds, and maybe even thousands of pages long, I might need to make tabs, kind of like a table of contents, but I don't need that. So I'm actually just going to delete that. The very first thing that you should do every time you open up a new Google Doc is to title it. What is it that we are going to put on this paper? You can do it at the end, but often people forget. So make it a habit of doing it right away. So I'm going to call this Google Docs Digital Skills Lesson. And I'd like you to do the same thing on yours when you get ready to do this activity for today. You will also see that there are links to templates. A template is like the beginning of a document that you might need. And remember, Google Docs is used by students, but it's also used by adults for a variety of things. Most people do not start in the template unless they're specifically looking to create a thing. For you as students, most of the time you're going to be using Google Docs to write language arts essays or to put images or to produce anything for us that you're going to be turning in. I'm going to go ahead and close this for right now. You could also use Google Docs for meeting notes, to draft an email, to track some tasks that you want to do, and there's more. But I tend to just click on here and start typing. As soon as you start typing, those options go away. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and my document. And I'm going to go ahead and just show you some of the items that are in the menu section in Google Docs. One is the file menu item, and most of you are going to be using this because you are going to be downloading this as a PDF document. You've already done this a couple of times in various courses. You might also choose to email this file to someone, but we're going to get into that later on in this course. Other things that you might do from here is to rename your document. You don't actually have to click that. You can just click in the box, triple click, and it will come up. But another thing that you can do is change the page setup. So right now we have it in portrait style. That means it's vertical up and down like a piece of paper. If I changed it to landscape, that's going to make everything kind of turn on its side. Like if we were going to do an activity where we wanted the information to be wider than it was tall. And you can change the margins. So let's say you were doing a written piece and you wanted it all to fit on one piece and one or two sentences were going on to the next page, if you make your margins a little bit smaller, then everything will fit on the same page. The margin is the border that goes around your whole document, and you can see those up here. You likely are not going to use that very often. In the edit section, most of these times, if you wanted to use any of these edit options, you're going to be using the control options. Most students know Control X gets rid of something or just deletes it, Control C to copy, Control V to paste. But if you needed to do this by using your mouse or your ClickPad, you can use these options as well. There's actually an undo button right here. So in this section right here, we have shortcuts to a lot of the menu options that are used most often. In the view section, you are likely not going to be using this at all. Matter of fact, I'm just going to skip it, but at least you know that it's there. The most common option that you are going to be using as students is to insert different things. You might be inserting an image, a table. You won't be using most of these. You might insert a link. You might insert a drawing. You can insert a page break. But again, most of these insert options are options that you have as shortcuts right on your top margin right here. I just noticed a new one, page elements. So I can add page elements. Ooh, a watermark. If I didn't want anybody to copyright my stuff, I could put a watermark on it. Sometimes your teachers use a horizontal line. If I wanted to add a horizontal line, kind of breaks up parts of the page. Okay. To insert an image, you have many different options. You can upload an image from your computer. So let's say you took a picture using your camera on your Chromebook, or you somehow had an image that was already in your Chromebook, but not in your Google Drive. You could upload an image from your computer. Like I do have some images. Like I have my school photo. I also have this periodic table that's on my gallery of my desktop. And that's because I'm on a desktop computer. Remember, a Chromebook is just access to the Chrome browser with a keyboard. You don't have a full computer. A full computer has files that are not part of the internet. I can also take this image and I can grab a corner and I can make it a lot smaller. Okay, always grab corners if you want the height and the width to stay the same, because when you start playing around with this, then your images get real skinny or they get really wide and you don't want that. So I'm going to undo and I'm going to undo again. Another way, so I want to move down and make a little space, you can also insert an image from the web. When you do this, Google is going to bring up a search option over here. We'll go back to our trusty giraffes. And all of the images that Google brings up are images that you're allowed to use without copyright infringement. So I can get this image of my giraffe. If I wanted more than one image, I could click multiples and insert both of them. Oh no, they're so big. But I can also click on each and drag this corner up, make it a little bit smaller. I can drag this corner up, make it a lot smaller, and now it fits on my document. Okay, so you can insert images that way. You might insert a table. So let me go on to the next space, and inserting a table allows you to put data and information on a paper that looks something like this. You see this a lot from teachers. As a student, you might use this more for science. You might also do it if you are pre-writing a compare and contrast paper, or if you are doing a Venn diagram of some sort where you wanted to have, let's say you wanted to compare oranges and you wanted to compare apples. It's not exactly a Venn diagram, but you can make your different categories. And when you type, as you hit the return button or the enter button, the table will grow for you. You can also have more cells below by right-clicking on your table, and you can insert rows above and below. Rows go side to side, columns go up and down. So I can insert another row. You will be asked to insert a table on an upcoming activity. You can also, I'll give you just a second right here, I'm going to get to the end of my paper. I can also insert a drawing. And when you do this, you can either pick a drawing that you already have in your Google Drive, or you can create a new drawing. And this is going to bring up Google Drawings. Now, we haven't had a lesson yet on Google Drawings, so you won't be required to do this, but I want you to know that the option is there. If I click Drawings, it's going to bring up a new drawing. So if I wanted to draw something using all my different draw tools, I might draw this lightning bolt, and I might have it have a fill color of gold, and maybe have an outline color of red, and I want that outline to be even thicker, so I'm going to fatten it up. And then if I click the Save and Close button, that drawing I created goes right into my Google Doc. I can also select it and make it bigger or smaller if I need to. The last thing that you might use as a student from this page, you might use the symbols. There are emojis, but you can get emojis in a different place. You may use these for math, but the most common thing that you might also use for a student is the link. And this would be if you wanted to make a link to a website or make a link to another document. Maybe you want a link to a YouTube video. So if I were to very quickly have a link, let's just say I wanted to put a link to our school's website. I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And on my keyboard, I'm hitting Control-C to copy. I'm going to come back to my Google Doc, and it says search or paste the link. I'll put that right in there. Oh, where did it go? Insert. I think I forgot a step. Insert link. I honestly don't know where it went, because this isn't how I insert the links. If I were going to do our class website, I might say middle school website, and I'm going to highlight that, and I'm going to come up to insert the link over here. And actually that is where I'm going to apply the link. So if I were to click right on this link, it would take us to our middle school website. Formatting just means, how do you want the page to show? What do you want it to look like? There's different paragraph styles. You can align and indent. So most of the time, by default, your alignment is going to be to the left. The only time that you would center something is if you were writing a poem or you had a title. You can have it be all the way to the right, and justified just means that it's even on the right and the left. It looks very boxy. You can also increase or decrease your indent. I prefer to use the alignment tool that's right here, because I have very quick access to it. Most of these other formatting tools you won't use, but I encourage you to play around with them anyway. Coming over to the tools, this becomes a tool chest that students use for a variety of reasons. You can highlight the text that you have in the document, and you can check it for spelling and grammar. You can also highlight some text and see how many words it is. It's the word count. It's pretty cool. So let me take something, and I'm going to just copy this from our website. I'm going to hit Control-C, come back over to our Google Doc, and I'm going to go ahead and just put that in there. Come on. Oh, you know what? It's written in white text. That's why it didn't show up. I'm going to shake it, make it quite a bit smaller. I'm going to make it just 14-point font, and I'm going to go ahead and change the color so we can see it. Let's make it red. And I can highlight just that text, and I can find out how many words it is. It tells me that's 70 words, Characters is how many things. That includes each letter, a space, and any punctuation. You can also have the document display the word count while you're typing. So in language arts, especially as sixth graders, you're going to be asked to produce things of varying length. So this gives you a gauge of about how many words that you're typing. So if you do click this, then as I was typing, you can see down below, it shows all the things that I have. You can also hide that if you want. I'll go ahead and leave it. Most of these other tools you probably won't use as a student. There is a tasks button, but as you know, you already have option to do that from your email. And most of the rest of this you won't use as a student, except for voice typing. Now, if you haven't figured it out already, I'm going to go ahead and change the color of my font. If you haven't already figured it out already, if your fingers are getting tired of typing, you click that voice typing. And when you click this button, everything that you say is going to type directly on the page. The AI client that works in here will usually do punctuation for you as well, as long as you take pause at the end of your sentence. It's really quite crafty, especially when you're trying to share what you know about a topic but are having a hard time writing it down. Of course, you will have to go back with your learning coach and do some proofreading and maybe some revision in case you have a lot of and yeah in your speech, because all of that will type out as well. Of course, when you're done, you click the button and it ends. What I would do if I were you today is copy and paste a short paragraph that you have and just take 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes and go through and use the tools. There are shortcuts to many of these tools. There's a spell check. You can decide on the type of font that you like. A lot of students really like to play around with their different fonts. It depends on what they're doing. So I really like this font. That is pretty hard to read, so I'm going to pick a different color. I'll make it be dark green. No, I already have green. I'm going to pick a different color. Remember, you have to highlight something in order to make the change. The font size, little fun fact, by default, Google Docs is going to put your font at 11 points. Those points are pixel points. If you were trying to handwrite something, most handwriting is at about a 16-point font. So just something to think about. You can also bold your text. That's what the B means. I want to put it in bold. So you have to highlight your word. You click the bold. You can also have something be in italics. Italics gives it a little slant. You can also make changes. You can also underline your items. This option right here is where we change the color of our text, and this is where we highlight. Most of you already figured that out because you've already turned in a language arts assignment where you were asked to highlight things in a particular color. Here's that quick link. This is where we add comments. That's going to come up in another lesson. Here's another option where you can insert those images. And here's where you can play with the format of your text. Everything from how you want it aligned to how much spacing you want on a paragraph. This is kind of nice. When I'm typing, I like to have my spacing be a little bit wider than this. So I will do 1.5 spacing. It makes it a lot easier to read too. You can also make checklists or bullet your things and on and on and on and on. So thank you for your patience as you went through this full video. This was an introduction for some people and a giant review for others. Oh, there's one other option that I want to share with you, and that is the version history. Your teachers use the version history quite a bit, especially in language arts, because it gives us a chance to see where a document started and where it ended. In a very upcoming assignment, or a very upcoming assignment, in an assignment that you have in the next week or so, I'm going to ask you to open the document that you created today and actually do some specific things. And by clicking the version history, you will be able to tell, and I will be able to tell, that you use the same Google Doc. Your version history actually saves almost instantly. You can see at 3:24 where I opened up this document. You can see on September 30th when I recorded this, if I drop down this little caret, it shows every single change that was made. Basically, every single time that you type a letter or you make a change, those changes are made. So I can click through and we can see every single step of the way. This becomes really useful as a teacher when they want to watch a student's paper or assignment come to life over time. It's also a good way for us to check for plagiarism and for copying and pasting from other sources. But it's also a place for you to go back and say, I want to start all over. So we will use that option at times. All right, folks. So today, like I mentioned a minute ago, I would like for you to open a new Google Doc, either starting in your Google Drive or starting straight from the Google Doc menu, and just take a few minutes to play around. I want you to use the different tools. Maybe try different tools, even if I said you're probably not going to use it this year as a student, but at least you can know all the different options that you do have and what happens to the document while you do that. All right, have a great rest of your day.